Hi, I'm Jaden from Plot Engineer, and this review is for Vitals by Greg Bear, published in 2002. So what's the story? Well, Vitals follows microbiologist Hal Cousins, a scientist on the brink of unlocking the biological secrets to immortality through research into primitive bacteria and human aging. On a deep-sea expedition to collect ancient microorganisms, his submersible mission goes horribly wrong when his pilot all of a sudden turns homicidal and violence breaks out on his support vessel. Back on land, he's discredited, his funding is cut, and his twin brother, who was working on similar research, is mysteriously murdered, drawing Hal into a shadowy conspiracy. How's the story told? Well, I just want to start by saying that I think Greg Bear is a very good writer, even though I don't have a ton of experience with his work. About 15 or 20 years ago, I tried to read this brick, Eon, probably his most well-known book, and I DNF'd it. I don't think that means it was a bad book. It was just not what I was looking for at the time. It's a big, dumb object sort of science fiction, and I do plan on getting back to it. Retroactively, I realized that I read a Star Wars book that Bear wrote when I was a teenager, and I don't remember thinking much of it at the time. And my brother, who knows about these things, says that his Star Wars book is not really held in high regard among the Star Wars reading community. Now, I know all of this might sound at odds with my earlier statement that Greg Bear is a good writer, but I read his Blood music, maybe one of his best received novels, and that was fantastic. I read that last year, and great. One of the best science fiction books I've ever read. Vitals is also good. I wouldn't say it's on the same level as Blood music, but I still had a really good time reading it. It wasn't really what I was expecting. I went into this one blind. I picked it up at a local used bookstore months ago, and when I read it a couple weeks ago, I avoided reading the synopsis on the back cover. I didn't want to have any spoilers. So I was expecting it to be a hard science fiction novel based on the reputation of its author. And there is some of that with our main character, the scientist Hal Cousins, especially at the beginning of the book where he's engaged in this underwater research. He's searching for certain underwater organisms, and he's trying to explain his theory about how finding bacteria in these organisms can somehow lead to developing treatments that will greatly prolong the human lifespan. I actually thought when he was booting around in his little submarine at the beginning of the novel that this whole novel was going to deal with marine biology.
Here, there's a beached whale. She's dying.
Is anyone here a marine biologist?
And I was like, well, that doesn't sound terribly interesting to me. But it turns around soon. It becomes a very different sort of novel than you suspect it is at the beginning. Pretty soon, people around Hal, they start going crazy. We leave the Pacific Ocean, and things here turn into a full-blown thriller with science fiction elements. The story sort of reminded me of a Ken Follett or Follett, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, thriller, but I would say that Bear's prose is better than Follett's, even considering that this, you could say, isn't Bear's native genre. One criticism I have about this book, and that's the main character, and Hal Cousins, as we mentioned, this is real, I feel, paint by numbers protagonist stuff here. And there's a few instances where he reflects on his twin brother who was killed early on, and he thinks these super dramatic things like, oh, he was my shadow. And that sort of stuff really has me rolling my eyes. I didn't find myself caring about this guy. He was very bland. I didn't care if he achieved his aim or his aims, got what he was looking for, or if he even survived the story. But that being said, I think that illustrates how effective I found other elements of the story, that I enjoyed the book overall as much as I did. There are supporting characters definitely who are more interesting than Hal, And the conspiracy that Hal comes upon is the big selling point, I think. I don't want to spoil anything, but this conspiracy, it involves evil or unethical science, and that's really one of my favorite tropes. There are scenes where Hal and his allies, as they're investigating this conspiracy, they come upon documents, old documents relating to this scientific project, and these include photos and video and description of the test subjects, and I found these really unsettling in a good way. And also, again, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I found really effective the manner or the mechanism by which those who are controlling the conspiracy reach out and try to get at Hal and his allies to stop them. There's one scene where seemingly out of the blue, this lady is out walking her two dogs, and all of a sudden she sets the two dogs on Hal. So really good stuff there. So overall, this is, I don't believe this book is going to blow anyone's mind, change anyone's world, but I found it a really good, fun read. Definitely recommend 6.5 out of 10. So I've been Jaden with Plot Engineer. Hope you enjoyed this really brief review. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.